2 Kings chapter 4, there's a story about a lady. She and her husband were friends with the prophet Elisha, but the husband had died. Years had passed. Now this lady didn't have any money to pay her bills. It was so bad, the creditors were coming to take her 2 sons as payment. You can imagine how distraught she was. The prophet Elisha came by and asked what she had in her house. Her first answer was nothing at all. She was saying, Elisha, I'm done. It's too late. The odds are against me. And sometimes when we look at what we have compared to what we need, we think like her. I'll never accomplish my dreams. I don't have what I need. I'll never get well. I'll never get out of debt. We look at the circumstances, at the resources, the medical report, the bank account. Here's the key. The resource may have dried up, but the source is still alive and well. She finally said, Elisha, I do have one thing in my house, but really it's nothing, just a little bottle of olive oil. She thought it's really not worth mentioning. I have this huge debt, and all I have is something worth a few dollars. Don't discount the small things you have. Don't discount small opportunities, small gifts, small income. May seem small to you, but God knows how to multiply. The scripture says, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, that's one of the smallest seeds, you could say to this mountain, be removed, and it will move. God doesn't expect us to have great faith all the time. It's nice when we do, but God is so merciful. He knew there would be times like this lady. We would think this is impossible. If you'll just say, God, all I have is this little bit of oil. All I have is mustard seed faith. Watch what God will do. Elisha told her to go out and borrow as many large containers as she could find. I can see this lady knocking on door after door, carrying those empty containers back to her house. Don't you know God saw her faith? God saw her being obedient, doing what she could. When you're in difficult times, don't sit around in self-pity. Do something where God can see your faith. Make plans to get well. Make plans to come out of debt. Are you gathering up any containers? Are you taking steps of faith to show God that you're ready for favor? Neighbors started asking, why do you even need these empty containers? You don't have anything to put in it, just a little bit of olive oil. She answered, I may not have it yet, but I know it's on the way. I know the prophet wouldn't have asked me to do it if God wasn't up to something. Faith started to rise in her heart. All the circumstances were against her. Friends trying to talk her out of it. Her own thoughts telling her no way. Her attitude was, I may not see how this can happen, but I know a secret. God is my source. He's my provider. I'm connected to that supply line that won't run dry. Elisha said to her, pour the little bit of oil into the first container. That didn't make sense. What good was it going to do to transfer oil from one container to the other? What God asks us to do many times is more about the obedience than the actual thing that we're doing. It's a test. If you'll obey, you'll see God's favor. In the scripture, Naaman was an army captain, but he had leprosy. God told him to go wash in the Jordan River 7 times and he would be healed. Naaman didn't want to do that. He came up with all these excuses. God, the water's too dirty. We have better rivers back at home, on and on. He almost talked himself out of it. The last moment he decided to do it. When he came up the 7th time, his skin was perfectly normal. The healing wasn't in the water. The healing was in the obedience. Are you doing what God is asking you to do? Are you gathering the containers? Are you pouring the oil? This lady could have said, Elisha, I'm not going to do that. It's going to be a waste of time. She would have missed her miracle. When she poured the little oil into the first container, the oil never stopped flowing. She filled the first one up, then the second, then the third. That doesn't make sense. Where was the oil coming from? The source. When you do what God asks you to do that doesn't make sense, God will do things for you that don't make sense. He'll show out in your life. This lady kept pouring oil until all the containers were full. Then she went out and sold it. She was able to pay all of her bills. She had plenty left over to live on. That little bit of oil should have run out, but God has supernatural provision. He knows how to not only sustain you, but to increase you to where you defy the odds. You may have areas in your life that are dry now. You haven't seen much good breaks, seen any favor, any increase. Seems like it's permanent. No, get ready. The flow is coming. God is about to do something unusual. You couldn't have made it happen. The odds were against you, but the source is going to send a supernatural flow. It may look like your dream has died up. Favor is about to flow. Finances are about to flow. Good breaks are about to flow. The right people are going to flow. You're not going to have to find them. They're going to find you. The medical report may not look good. You feel stuck in your health. Receive this into your spirit. Healing is flowing. Restoration is flowing. Strength is flowing. You haven't been able to get ahead in your career. People have held you back, left you out. Don't get discouraged. The flow is coming. Promotion is going to flow. Ideas are about to flow. Creativity is going to flow. Everything that has stopped your flow, I believe right now, those forces have been broken. You are coming into supernatural provision, supernatural healing, supernatural connections. You've heard the saying, it's showtime. God is saying, it's flow time. He's about to open the windows of heaven, pour out blessings that you could not contain. One touch of God's favor will take you from famine to flourishing, from barely enough to more than enough. Now get in agreement with God. Father, thank you that this job is not my source, but you are my source. Lord, I'm grateful for the medicine, but I know you're my healer. Lord, I don't see how I can accomplish my dreams, but I know you have a way where I don't see a way. I talked to a couple that wanted to buy a house in another state. They were looking in this particular neighborhood. They had found this one house that they really liked, but every time they tried to move forward, they didn't feel peace about it. After several months, they found a much larger piece of property right on the outskirts of the neighborhood. In the natural, being in the subdivision would have been a better investment. The property values were higher. But even though they could afford it, because they didn't have peace about it, they bought this property right outside the neighborhood. Several months later, two men knocked on their door. They were geologists. They told how they had been studying that area for years, and they had discovered a massive amount of oil under the subdivision. The problem was the houses were too close together for them to drill. They said, if you'll let us lease part of your property so we can drill into the neighborhood, we'll give you a commission not only off your land, but off of all the properties in the neighborhood. There were 1,200 homes in that subdivision. Isaiah said, God knows where the hidden riches are found. You know why? He's the one that put them there. He's the source, the creator of the universe, the Most High God. And things may not be flowing in your life right now, but God knows where all the treasures are. He knows how to put you at the right place at the right time. He may not have you strike oil, but He can give you one idea that will catapult you ahead. He can cause one person to come across your path like He did for us. You'll accomplish a dream that seems impossible. He knows not only what you need, but He knows when you're going to need it. 1997, I was walking through the lobby before service one Sunday morning. A man stopped me and said that his cousin had a construction permit for the last full-power commercial television station in Houston. We bought the permit and put the station on the air. I thought that's what I would do with my life. I love production, cameras, and editing. Having a station seemed like a perfect fit. But 2 years later, my father went to be with the Lord. I never dreamed that I would become the pastor. Now my focus had changed. 2003, we acquired the Compact Center. We need $100 million to renovate. So we decided to sell the station. We listed it at a certain price. All the experts said that we would never get that much. One man had sold more television stations in the U.S. than anyone else. He said we were wasting our time asking that amount. A year later, we sold it for more than we were asking. over 5 times what we purchased it for. We use those funds to renovate this facility. What am I saying? God has already lined up everything you're going to need. He's the source. He's the provider. The scripture says, no good thing will He withhold because you walk uprightly. He's not going to withhold the finances, the health, the ideas, the connections. Quit worrying about how it's going to happen. God has it figured out. He knows how to get you to your destiny. Now, maybe you've been trying to do this only in your own strength. You put forth your best effort. You've tried to get people to help you. It's time to go to the source. God, I can't do it on my own. I'm asking you to bring this dream to pass. God, I'm asking you to turn my health around. I'm asking you to help me to conceive, to have this baby. The scripture says, call on the name of the Lord and He will answer you. Sometimes we call on people, we call on friends, we call on our spouse. They can only do so much. But when you call on the source, the creator of the universe, that's when things will happen that you couldn't make happen.